if you have stuff like geospatial data, it is inherently three-dimensional data. So anytime that you're pushing that onto a two-dimensional screen, you're only ever really looking at one slice at a time. So I thought, well, what if we just looked at the data as the data actually exists in three-dimensional space? Anytime that you're looking at a chart or a graph, or you're looking at, a 2D dashboard, everything's always a slice of the larger data set. And I think that the real value is being able to do that, and then also being able to share that experience with somebody else. So instead of having to sort of use a game of telephone to describe these slices of information and what you see in your head, you guys can all just see the same thing, come to the same conclusion.
Welcome to Business Ninjas, brought to you by WriteForme, where you'll hear from business leaders who are out there growing their business and slaying it every day. Learn from the masters. Let's get started.
Hey everybody, this is Max Pittman with WriteForme, and you're listening to another episode of the Business Ninjas podcast. We meet the experts who are making things happen and scaling their businesses. And today we're talking about BadVR with Suzanne Borders, who is the CEO at BadVR. Suzanne, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Yeah, absolutely. We appreciate it. And I'm excited to dive into, what BadVR is, and also talk about yourself for sure. So as we get things rolling here though, just for the listeners who don't know who BadVR is, BadVR is in the AR, VR space, obviously, but the focus is for enterprise data visualization. And the company itself has been around for about 5 years. And so as we dive into, the organization, feel free to, tell our listeners just at the outset a little bit about yourself and why you started the company. Just kind of curious if you want to share kind of your own, origin story about, how you started BadVR, and we can go from there.
Yeah. Well, thanks for the question. So a little bit about BadVR. Prior to founding the company, my focus as a professional had been designing 2D data visualization interfaces, specifically interfaces for geospatial data visualization products. So mostly those focused on the residential and the commercial real estate industry. So really trying to find a way to make up to 150 individual data points per property, per building, viable and usable when you're looking at that either on a state level or a nationwide level. So there were a lot of challenges in displaying that information in 2 dimensions. And because of the nature of the data that I was working with and trying to visualize in 2 dimensions, I came up with the idea a long time ago, many years ago, to try to look at that in 3 dimensions. So, if you have stuff like geospatial data, it is inherently three-dimensional data. So anytime that you're pushing that onto a 2-dimensional screen, you're only ever really looking at one slice at a time. So I thought, well, what if we just looked at the data as the data actually exists in 3-dimensional space? Now, this was back when the Oculus developer kits were like just a new thing. So it was a little early, but I sort of sat on that idea for a long time. And as I continued my work as a UX designer, a product designer, building out these interfaces, designing interfaces, I really just sort of kept an eye on the hardware side of things for augmented virtual reality. Because my goal with the whole idea of using 3-dimensional space to visualize data was to make that process of working with data, finding insights within data, and really communicating those insights to others. I wanted to make that whole process easier, faster, and more effective. So I figured that if the hardware was difficult to use, it really wouldn't make a lot of sense because I'm trying to design a product that makes data easy to use. So I just sort of watched the hardware and kept an eye on it as it matured. And when it got to a point where I felt that the vast majority of people could easily interface with the hardware, and someone like my mom could pick up a VR headset from like Best Buy and turn it on and put it on and be able to do that, that's when I thought, okay, now's the time to found my business, which is this idea of really taking data from 2 dimensions to 3 dimensions to really democratize the ability to discover insights within it. Initially, we focused on, like I said, geospatial data, which is inherently multidimensional. But as we progressed forward, really started to expand out to visualizing non-geospatial data sets using immersive space, using multiple dimensions as well. And throughout this entire process, which has, as you mentioned, been about 5 years, we've really learned a lot. We've really honed in on some really unique use cases and really found ways to add value to the process of analyzing data and understanding and communicating data, and adding value in ways that are currently impossible with 2 dimensions.
Very, very interesting story. I appreciate you kind of diving all the way back into like where this idea kind of originated from and how it evolved as the VR industry evolved and how the products evolved and how the usability and how users evolved to adopt this type of technology and how you timed it out. Like I love that piece, and it's really interesting to hear and how that tied back to what you were doing before. And it sounds like you almost like saw a gap, right? Or a better way to to think about like how data could actually be leveraged in a different type of dimension, I guess, right?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I felt always very frustrated because as a designer, I know the entire data set that I'm trying to display in my design, right? I know what's the potential of what's there. And always I had to make a compromise as a 2D designer because the size of the screen or the nature of the presentation, there was always compromises that needed to be made and what could be displayed at any given point through the user's experience. So for instance, from a high level, what do you display on a high level? Every layer that you drill down into it, you lose that greater context. And as you zoom out, you lose the detail. So it was always this like, I could never really show all of it with all of its context at any given point in time. So it was very frustrating. But also it was sort of like, trying to, I guess, like go through a museum and only look at like one 1-inch by 1-inch square of a painting at a time. So you're getting a piece of it, but you're not really understanding what the greater whole is. And you're having to, using your own mind, sort of piece together what it actually looks like. And, as we have all discovered with the game of telephone, even though people can receive the same information, they can build different mental models with it. So it always is this like process that's this very fraught and difficult process of both finding the insights within a data set because you're only ever looking at a piece of it at a time, and then also really difficult to communicate those insights because again, you're only ever looking at one piece of it at a time. Yeah. So I thought the better way to do this is just to look at all of it at once and have everybody see the same thing and therefore come to the same conclusion.
Sure. I love that. So what were some of like, I guess, the initial use cases that, you guys are solving for? Like, can you give me a couple of those just, and maybe what industries those are typically within that you're seeing?
Yeah. So one of the first products that we really developed was this product called C-Signal that we have, which allows you to put on a headset and see your wireless, see your telecom, see your Bluetooth data as it exists in real space in real time. So instead of sort of only getting a slice of information about the signal strength of your Wi-Fi network or the signal strength of your telecom network, you're actually able to see the entire network within a given space or even at like a city level. So that obviously has applications within the telecom space. It has applications in productivity and has applications in a lot of different areas. But that was sort of one of the first use cases that we dived into, one of the first products that we really started working on because it was a very easy thing to sort of see the value out of it. Because if you look at the current tools that allow you to sort of map out RF signal strength, you're looking at individual slices in space, or you're looking at a static 3D model. You're not looking at the real-time data as it's changing in your real space as you walk around. So that has, like I said, applications in telecom, utility, a bunch of different industries. The other product that we ended up developing that we're still working on, but is going to be coming to market soon, is a product called AROC, which is Augmented Reality Operations Center, which is really taking that concept of a 2D sort of like ops center and making it a three-dimensional space. So you're able to see more information, you're able to collaborate more effectively. And this is a lot of use cases for like municipal governments, smart cities, IoT, and has applications in public safety where you're bringing in a lot of different real-time data sets. You're maybe looking at them against one sort of historical data set for a building or a location, like a floor plan or something similar, and you're able to monitor all of this stuff in real time and then respond to it in real time as well.
I hear real time kind of a lot from you. I guess, is that like one of the kind of the key things and key differentiators, I guess, is the ability to see this data in real time?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, that's definitely a differentiator for us as a company, but then also, I think part of the differentiators for our products on the market. So a lot of similar, products, if you were to go look for them, will show you historical data. They will show you data that you have loaded in from the past, but you're not able to really get that real-time updating, data changing, and like I said, the real-time feeds. That's something that we are really focused on providing. And we also have real-time interactivity. So you're not just looking at a static model, or you're not just looking at a static visualization or even a real-time visualization. You're looking at that and you're able to interact with it and to do things with it, filter it, manipulate it, change it, and then see how it reacts as well. So all of that interactivity is unique to us as well.
That's super interesting. This is super interesting, Suzanne. Like, where did the name BadVR come from? I'm just kind of curious. Like, what does it mean? Why did you choose it?
Yeah, that's actually funny that you asked that. A lot of people ask, like, well, why would you name your company BadVR, and why would you call your product bad? And we're not. We're badass. We're so bad we're good type of thing. But also, it's an acronym. It means bring all your data to VR. So that's sort of where the name originated from, but it also sets us apart. So, something that sticks out and stands out in your mind, people don't forget the name and they don't forget the logo, which, is kind of the goal of branding and marketing. So
sure. I love it. That makes sense. I love that. Bring all your data to VR. Yes. So the ability to like manipulate data in the VR has got to be kind of crazy to do, especially maybe like for the first time. And it sounds like, for the types of industries you're going after, like the telecoms, municipalities of the world, like what's like been the reception, I guess? And like, are there industries that maybe you guys are trying to break into as well, in addition to the ones that you just mentioned?
Yeah, I mean, the response has really been tremendous. It's also obviously changed over time. So, as the hardware has matured and as people have really begun to understand that it has more potential than just gaming, there's been an ever increasing interest in what we are doing. And it's honestly quite surprising to me when I founded the company. We didn't really, as honestly, to this date, we have not done a huge amount of outbound marketing. All of the people and all of the work that we are doing and all of the customers that we have are really people that have gone looking for us for the most part, that have either found us on social media or made an active effort to reach out to us to want to work with us. So that's a really cool thing. And that really made me not so much, I shouldn't say surprised, because I knew that there would be interest in what I was doing, but the amount of interest and the rate in which it's growing so rapidly has really been a nice surprise, I should say. And then also during COVID, when people really had to work at home and they needed to collaborate, with data sets, this was a tool that they took a lot of interest in as well. So yeah, that has really been exciting for us. In terms of other industries that we're trying to reach out to, I mean, honestly, what we're doing right now is really focusing on a lot of telecom stuff, a lot of public safety stuff. So if there are any public safety, municipalities, smart cities, or even like factory IoT visualizations or campus security visualizations that people would be interested in potentially trying our software to visualize, we would love to hear from you. We would love to work with you. We have a pilot program. We would totally be able to set you up with something really cool to try it out against your current solutions.
That's fantastic. Yeah, good call out there, right? Like anyone who's listening that finds themselves in this space, right? If you haven't been introduced to VR, this may be a really interesting time to obviously check it out, and interesting for you guys to see how you can manipulate the data and identify the data and optimize on what you guys are currently doing, hopefully by leveraging BadVR and its and the platform within 3D, which is crazy. So like as a CEO, especially a woman CEO, I'm just kind of curious, like for you, like what's been your experience being like a female founder? Like how tell me, I guess, about how unique it's been, and what's been easy, what's been hard, just kind of curious.
Yeah, it's been a challenge in a unique way. I mean, being a startup founder in and of itself is challenging for sure, without a doubt, regardless of what gender you are. That being said, I think that being a female founder specifically comes with another level. It's like playing life on like really, really hard mode versus just hard mode. But that being said, it's really cool to be able to experience all of those challenges and to find ways to meet those challenges. So it's really shown me personally, I guess this might be a very selfish thing to say, but it really has proved to myself that I can do this. It was something that I really struggled with when I was younger, the belief that I was even capable of founding my own company or leading my own company or being a leader at all. There were so many times in my life as a woman in a predominantly male profession where I just doubted myself because I didn't see other people like me doing what I wanted to do. So it was really difficult to convince myself that, like, okay, even though you're different, you can still do it. And it really helps to sort of integrate into a community of other female leaders and to actually see how they did it. I worked with a very cool female founder named Erin, who really showed me in many different ways that it was possible to like be a female tech founder and to also be a female tech founder who was not a coder, because that was the other sort of like burden of proof. Sometimes as a female, you sort of have to like prove to the world that you're capable of doing things, especially as in the engineering technology space. And I'm not a coder, I'm a UX designer. I don't code, I'm not an engineer. So it also felt like kind of even more challenging in that sense. But to see other women who had non-technical backgrounds come in and be like really badass female leaders and founders and CEOs, like really inspired me to believe that I could also do that. And then just going and doing it also really helped me believe in my own talents and capability. So that was a struggle for sure. And I do feel imposter syndrome all the time. I think everybody does, but it's just that much harder, I think, as a female founder. So.
Yeah, I can't imagine. I mean, I think like removing the gender and just thinking about you as a CEO, like there's 1,000 different problems and issues that I'm sure you're solving every single week, right? So when thinking about, you being, a CEO and you've been doing this for 5 years and, there's a product market fit here, but like, what are maybe some of like the strategies or approaches maybe that you found most effective in driving like sustainable growth? Like, are there any principles or philosophies that maybe guide your decision-making?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, there's a whole tenet, like a list of beliefs, core beliefs that I have on our website and our About Us page. But I think the core one that I tend to find the most engaging and rewarding is to like never lose that concept of magic. So, when you're talking about growth and when you're talking about things being sustainable and, working together as a team and continuing to grow your team, I think you have to sort of leave a little room for the humanity of it, or what I would call the sort of magic element of it, which other people might call maybe culture or something along those lines. But I think there's a unique magic that comes together when you have the right people on the right mission, where sort of the individual team or the whole team becomes greater than the sum of its parts. And that's something that's really hard to quantify, but something that you can really replicate as you grow, if you continue to have the right culture, the right people, the right sort of attitude and interest and passion. It's hard sometimes to maintain that passion over a long period of time, especially when you're at a startup and things are crazy all the time, and you're growing at this rapid pace, and unique and unexpected challenges are happening. However, I think if you're just really, truly excited about the core mission, the core thing of what you're doing, and really, really passionate about potentially changing the world, I think if you focus on that, it's the best way to maintain that engagement, that passion, and then overall that team culture of bringing everyone together and keeping them excited.
The focus is the mission. Trust the process, right?
Yes, definitely.
That's really helpful to hear kind of your perspective as a founder, and what you've seen has been successful for you in building that culture, and recruiting the right types of talent there, because right, the VR industry, right, the market is ever evolving as well, right?
Definitely.
Like, I'm curious, maybe what growth opportunities do you see for BadVR? Like, where do you want to see you guys, a year from now?
Oh yeah, definitely. I mean, I think that the VR industry is unique because it has a set of hardware that's required that maybe some other industries don't have. So you're talking about, to access my applications, you have to have a VR or an AR headset. So any sort of growth in that area, when you're talking about hardware, even though it's not something that my company is, we don't build our own hardware, we just build software for the hardware. But seeing that sort of growth, and there's all these rumors that Apple might release a headset, that's really exciting. So a year from now, I would love to see Apple release a headset, because that's really a signal in so many different ways that the market is ready and geared up towards some really exponential growth. From my company personally, what I would love to see, where I would love to see us in a year, I would love to see us get our second product. So we have released C-Signal, that's available on the the Meta App Lab. So you can go there and download the application onto your Meta Quest headset and engage with it just as a demo. We also have obviously packaged up and ready enterprise versions of it as well. But I would love to get our AROC product, which is our second product that I talked about, the Operations Center, the virtual augmented reality Operations Center. I'd love to get that up in the app stores as well, and get that released publicly, and get that in the hands of people to use that for public safety stuff. Like I said, get that in the hands of municipal people, utilities companies, smart city applications, and that sort of stuff. But just make that more broadly available, sort of bring that product to market, is really my main goal for the next year.
Love it. That's great. Those are great goals. What about like from like a growth perspective internally? Is it, hey, we need to have, in order to get this product launched, like how are you going to get there, right?
Oh, gotcha.
Right.
Yeah. So we are in the process of hiring a couple positions. For us really to get there, it's going to require some growth in the sales and marketing area. My co-founder, like I mentioned earlier, I have a product and design background. My co-founder is an engineer. So we have a very sort of product and engineering heavy team, and always have. But now that we do have one product to market, we're close to bringing a second product to market. We really need to start ramping up on our sales and marketing, hiring for those positions, growing out that aspect of the team. So that's something that I'm very excited to do over the next year as well.
Exciting time for sure. Finally to get here. I'm sure it's something that you've been wanting to do.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yes.
So as you're growing and scaling, and you're launching these new products, which is really exciting. And like I need to step my game up and go get myself a VR or borrow one of my friends, but I'd love to like play around with it. I'm sure you're out on the road a lot. Tell their community like how they can get a hold of you, where they can find you, and where you're going to be in the upcoming months.
Yeah, definitely. So you can always get a hold of us, www.badvr.com. You can reach out using our contact form. You can also reach out across any social media. We're on pretty much all of it. LinkedIn, Instagram, Twitter, all of that good stuff. If you'd like to get a hold of me directly, you can email me. My email is suzanne@badvr.com. I'm totally happy to read any email from anyone. Just, don't send me any weird like phishing, scammy stuff. But if you're a genuine person, totally happy to talk with you, chat with you, no problem. You can also reach me on Twitter. I'm at Suzanne Borders as my handle. And then also I'm actually right after this interview about to go run over to LAX and jump on a plane to go to San Francisco. I'll be at Augmented World Expo starting tomorrow and through the end of this week. And then we'll be at the Augmented Enterprise Summit or Expo. It's in Houston towards the end of the year. I wish I could remember the name of it. It's sort of a newer event. But yeah, I mean, that's where I'll be for the next week or so. And then also on our social media, I'm sure that we'll do some more conferences. Oh, there is one in Italy in November as well, the On Metaverse Summit. And like I said, if you follow us on social media, we'll always keep you updated for the next place that I'm heading on a plane, where I'm traveling to, where you can meet me in person and where we can chat and connect.
Love it. That's great. Busy, very busy getting your name out
Always.
there. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. I mean, it seems like there's just a ton of value that users are going to get with the product. Like if you had to leave us with, I guess, maybe one or two things, like what do you think are like the most valuable pieces that users would get out of, using, the C signal or, the augmented reality operations center that you guys are launching?
Yeah, I mean, I think the real value is being able to see something in its entirety and to, at that point in time, make a decision based on having the entirety of information. So, anytime that you're looking at a chart or a graph, or you're looking at, a 2D dashboard, everything's always a slice of the larger data set. You're never actually looking at the entirety of it in front of you. And I think that the real value is being able to do that, and then also being able to share that experience with somebody else. So instead of having to sort of like use a game of telephone to describe these slices of information and what you see in your head, what you think it is to someone else, you guys can all just see the same thing, come to the same conclusion. And I would really urge anyone who hasn't had the opportunity to try something like that with their data to really give it a shot. Like I said, you can download C-Signal from the Meta App Lab. You can try that, literally step inside your data, step inside your network data at home. You can see your Wi-Fi network and get a little taste of the feeling of immense power and understanding that you can have immediately when putting on a headset.
There it is. Boom, right? You're totally changing the game, right?
Yes.
Adding this new dimension to your data, right? A new layer.
Absolutely.
Data, right? And so it sounds like you guys it's really exciting, right? Just it seems like, if people are interested, definitely go out and check out BadVR and discover kind of like the next generation for data visualization. And BadVR is going to give you the tools to do that within VR. So everyone who's listening, go ahead and check them out if you're looking to kind of look at things from a different perspective. Is kind of the way I'm thinking about it.
A better perspective, yes.
A better perspective. There we go. Right. Well, I appreciate you being here, Suzanne. Anything else you'd like to share with the audience? Anything that you think we haven't covered thus far you'd like to make sure they leave with?
You've been very comprehensive. I think you've covered almost everything. Maybe chat a little bit. We have a pilot program. So, if you are a large enterprise and you'd like to work with us, we have a whole program set up that we can do that. We are looking for public partners. We're looking for private partners. So please feel free to reach out. We would love to chat with you. And I really do think that we can revolutionize the way that you guys are working with your data.
Cool. Yeah, everyone go reach out to Suzanne at badvr.com and check out badvr.com as well. And if you have any questions, don't hesitate to reach out to me or to her. And I appreciate everyone listening to another episode of the Business Ninjas podcast. Suzanne from BadVR, thank you again so much for being here today and sharing your story.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so honored. Thank you.
Thanks everyone for listening. That wraps up another episode of the Business Ninjas podcast. Everyone have a great rest of the day. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.